Hey guys, it's Madison. Thanks for joining me in this faithful home. Today we're going to talk about sleep training. Did we do it? Pros, cons, the Ferber method, and all of that. So if you are new to my channel, my name is Madison. I share about my faith and being a Christian homemaker and a mom to a baby girl who is like a year and a half old now. So I feel like I should start saying toddler, but she's still my baby. So we'll just ignore that for now. But if you are new, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button so you feel welcomed into this faithful home with me. Today, we're going to be talking about sleep training. So grab some tea, grab some coffee, and let's get into today's video. All right, so if you are not new to my channel, you will have seen videos, I think a few that I've made, talking about my daughter's sleep. And for the first year of life, she pretty much woke up every 2 hours on the dot, round the clock. So for 365 days, I was up every 2 hours, basically. There would be like a random one-off where she would sleep like a 5-hour stretch, and that was like glorious reset for me, but pretty much she was a terrible sleeper. She was also really small, and she still is really small, and so I know that she needed more calories like throughout the night, especially when she was younger and she wasn't like primarily on solids. So it wasn't that big of a deal for me. I don't know, like I know that she needed me and needed that bond and that nursing, and so it didn't bother me. I was able to sleep decently. We co-slept for a lot of it. But when she got to about that year mark, I think it was like 13 months, my husband David was like, hey, I want you in our bed and I want Lorelai in her own bed, and we got to figure something out. She's 13 months old now. Let's do something. So that's when we kind of started the embarking on sleep training and how that was going to work and what we were going to do. For me, if it was just my decision, I would do no sleep training whatsoever. But it's not just me. I submit to the authority of my husband and respect him in our marriage. And when he brought up that concern, I said, okay, let's talk about it. Let's find a common ground and let's see what we can do to make this work. So we came up with kind of like a modified Ferber method, if you will. Like we just kind of based it off of the Ferber method, but then kind of fit it to Lorelai specifically, because every baby, every toddler is different. So there's no like one cookie cutter fits all for your child. You have to do kind of what works for them and tweak it as you go. My midwives always said, do what works until it doesn't. So that's what we did. So if you're unfamiliar with the Ferber method specifically, it's just, I don't know any other sleep training methods because I didn't do like any research. David was the one that picked the Ferber method because some of his friends used it. But basically with this one, it's like you lay them down, and then if they cry or if they wake up, they cry for 3 minutes, then you go in there, you console them, like pat their back, put their passy in, whatever they need to do, and then leave. Then you let them cry for 5 minutes if you need to go back in, and then it's like 7, 10, something like that throughout the night. And then there's like a set number that you continue on. And then the next day, it's like increased a little bit. So you start with 5 minutes. Well, I liked the concept kind of, and I was okay with working something out, but we started with 3 minutes, and we did 3 minutes, I think the whole day, or like the whole night. And ironically, we started on my birthday. It probably wasn't the greatest time to start because I was already emotional that we were doing this on my birthday, but ripped the Band-Aid off, we did it. So the kind of like unique thing we did with it is we would lay her down for that first 3 minutes. And at this point, I should say, David wanted me to start laying her down awake to go to sleep. And I did that for a couple days, but honestly, I still nurse her to sleep most nights, or I will nurse her till she is like almost drowsy, which is kind of more the ideal. We're like transitioning out of that now. But a lot of those nights, I would still nurse her to sleep and lay her down. And then we would start this process when she woke up for the first time, maybe like an hour later, because it's usually like when she would wake up again. Anyway, so we would go in and we would comfort her, we'd pat her back. And then what we did a little bit differently, like next to her crib while she falls asleep. And then the next time I had to go in there, I would sit a little bit farther back and then a little bit farther back until I was sitting at the door. And I liked this because it showed her that I'm there and that she is safe and that I'm right there as her comfort, but I'm not physically touching her. So we would pat her back, put her passy in, and then scoot back and sit a little bit farther away. And what I like about that is, one, she's not just screaming her heart out. She knows I'm there. She can open her eyes and see me. She can close them and work on going back to sleep. But she is doing that on her own. She is practicing going to sleep on her own, which is the point of sleep training. But I didn't feel like we were like complete rip bandage. It was more graceful, more subtle. And literally doing that for 3 days was like a complete switch. She started sleeping 3 hours at a time, and every like 3 hours I would be nursing her, and that went on for a little bit. And then we like would skip feeds. So instead of nursing every time she woke up, which is what I used to do, if she would wake up, say like 2 hours later, it's like, okay, she's probably not hungry in the term of needing sustenance. She's probably wanting that comfort. So maybe this time I'll pick her up. If she's really crying and like inconsolable, like just patting her back, I'm going to pick her up. I'm going to rock her. Like I'm not going to follow the strict let her cry it out because I don't believe in that. But I wanted to have some balance to respect David. And so I'd pick her up and I'd rock her, but I wouldn't nurse her. And that was hard for me because it was like, she doesn't need my body to comfort her anymore. She doesn't need the milk overnight as much. So that took a little bit of adjustment for me, but eventually, you know, those hours stretched out, and to now we are she's about 16 months old, and we started this so we're about 3 months into this process. In the last 3 months, it has been a complete shift in her sleep. So I will say, sleep training helped my daughter. As much as I hate to admit it, it really did help her. But I really appreciate the fact that we did it slowly and respectfully and very gentle, because there's no way in heck that I will let my daughter cry for 15 minutes in her crib by herself. And some people may think like, oh, it's just 15 minutes. That's no big deal. Nope, that is way too long for me. If she cries more than, I think our cap that I am comfortable with is 7 minutes. Cries longer than 7 minutes, I'm going in there. But right now, she doesn't really cry much. She has learned to find her passy and get herself comfortable, or she'll cry for a little bit and then, you know, nestle back up. And we have a baby monitor that sits over her crib. I have the monitor in my room, and I'm able to tell, this is where each baby is different. I'm able to tell whether or not she's going to go back to sleep. So I'll have the monitor and I'll watch. And if I hear her, I'll turn it on and look at the screen. And if she's crying, but she's still laying down or she's still sitting, then I know that she will probably lay back down and go to sleep. But if she's crying and she's standing up, then I need to go in there right away because she's looking for us. She needs us. And there's a difference. And it may not seem like it, like she's still crying both times, but when she's crying, still laying down, she's going to move, she's going to adjust, she's going to get comfortable, find that passy, and then she's going to go back to sleep. But if she's standing up, it's like, hey, game over, come get me. And if you look at maybe the last 2 weeks of her sleep, her consistent pattern has been she'll go to bed, maybe 2 hours later, she'll stir, and she might like whimper cry for 20, 30 seconds. She'll find her passy, she'll fall back asleep. Then maybe 1 in the morning, she wakes up again, same thing, stirs for a sec. I usually mute the monitor in our room because I can visually watch whether she sits up, is laying, or is fully standing. And then I can kind of hear her from down the hall, but also at the top of the monitor, it has like different volumes, green to red, of how loud she is. So I can gauge her tone from that as well without hearing it. And then she'll usually fall back asleep. And then if she wakes up anywhere in that 2, 3 o'clock and later, I will always go in there, especially if she is standing up. Usually by then, if she is crying, she is standing up. And so I will go in there, I will nurse her back to sleep, completely asleep, then lay her back down because she has been able to regulate her body and stay asleep after that. And that has worked out so great for us. And you may be thinking, my daughter's 16 months old and she's not sleeping through the night. That is correct. That is appropriate and that is normal for toddlers. Toddlers do not sleep through the night, contrary to popular belief. They may stay in their crib and put themselves back to sleep, but they don't fully sleep throughout the night. They will wake up, they will shift, they will adjust. They may not cry, but they will wake up and fall back asleep. And so I just kind of keep an eye on that and watch on the monitor. And then when she falls back asleep, when she like cries for 30 seconds, I fall back asleep because I'm still in bed watching her. I'm still half asleep anyways. And then since I had to get up every 2 hours with her first year of life, I'm pretty well adjusted to falling back asleep super quickly, which I am very thankful for because I don't know how I would do it if I couldn't. And so getting up at 3 in the morning to feed her is no big deal because I can feed her, she'll fall asleep. Honestly, sometimes I fall asleep in the chair with her too. And then I sleep for, I don't know, 2 hours with her in her rocking chair. And then I wake up, put her in her crib, and go continue sleeping in my bed. So it works out really great for me. David likes this new system now too because Lorelai is sleeping longer stretches, which he appreciates. We have our bed back, which he also really likes because as much as he loves her, she needs to be in her own bed because she moves and kicks and squirms when she's in bed with us. So there's a lot. Plus we downsized our bed, so there's like no room in our bed anymore. That's a whole nother story. What we will do is David's alarm is probably set for 6 o'clock, but he snoozes it till 6:30. Regardless, Lorelai's pretty routined about waking up around 6:30 in the morning. And so what David will do is he'll ask me first. He'll say, do you want me to go get her? 9 times out of 10, I don't want to get out of bed again. So I'll have him go get her. He'll bring her to me. I'll nurse her. We'll cuddle. She usually doesn't fall back to sleep at that 6:30 mark, but I can probably get a solid 30 minutes of snuggles in bed, and then he'll get up and get ready for work. Or if it's like the weekend, he'll stay in bed and we'll like all cuddle together, which is really nice. So we do get that like co-sleeping cuddle time in the morning still, but most of it is him getting ready for work anyways. So that's pretty much a gist of what our sleep training journey looks like. I will say that I am not a proponent for fully crying it out, leaving the baby alone for 20, 30 minutes at a time. I think that is terrible and should not be done. I am also not for sleep training babies that are under a year old. If we have another kid one day, I will most likely do the same thing. David says that we will just put the baby to cry from day one, but I know he's joking. And once a baby actually comes, he probably will think differently. But that's something we will talk about if that day comes. But I wouldn't change anything of it. I know that I got to nourish and feed and love on my daughter throughout the night for her first full year of life when she isn't independent. She's not fully independent now at 1.5 years, but she's not completely dependent on me either. She can do a lot of things and she is very smart. So I felt more comfortable about doing that. Anything under a year, no way. Definitely not, especially since under a year is what I believe is breastfeeding first and foremost, and then complementary foods after that. And so getting any amount of calories in from breastfeeding throughout the day and night is most important. I need that bond and that secure attachment for that first year. And then after that, I'm willing to negotiate. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think a pro of it is that she now does know how to put her passy in and nestle back down and know that she is safe. And I have to remind myself that Lorelai knows that she is safe, she is loved, she is cared for, and that's okay. And if she cries for 3 or 4 minutes in her crib before she falls back asleep, then she cries. But that's okay. And if she stands up and is crying, Mama's gonna go get her or Dada's gonna go get her. And we know that we are taking care of her. And those are my opinions on sleep training and what we did and what worked. If it works for you, that's great. If it doesn't, that's great too. If you did a different method and you sleep trained your baby at 2 months old, well, that's your decision. If you don't do sleep training at all, that's also your decision. That's the great thing about the internet. We can all have our own opinions about things. I'm just sharing mine here for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Like I said, if you are new to my channel, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button so you feel welcomed into this faithful home with me. I talk about motherhood, I talk about my faith, being a Christian homemaker, and all of that sort. So I would love to have you. And I will see you guys next week for another video. Bye guys.